destroy.
I will create, not destroy.
I am a force for good.
I am a force for good.
I am a leader.
I am a leader.
Defy the odds.
Defy the odds.
Set a new standard.
Set a new standard.
Step up.
Step up.
Step up.
Step up.
Step up.
Step up.
Hey, opening affirmations. I am a professional developer who gives them a goal. I use information to my clients achieve their goals. I press them to do right. I focus on the small wins every day. Real estate transactions are flooding in the market. My abilities make me succeed. I get stronger through the step. I am a master of creating. My confidence is shaped with integrity. I am a desire for thoughts. I connect to share my body. I try to use abundance energy. I am task oriented. I set every day. I know what I want to get. I attract and create greater potential financial today. My everybody?
Good.
Well, that sounded like a whole lot of energy. Change your state. All right.
Right?
Tony would say you can change it like this. How quick? Right? Change your state. Okay. So, any gratitudes or victories? Steve?
It's been a good week so far. I remember George talking about working on one of the holidays in the past. I don't know if it's the 4th or what it was. I thought, really, is that really a good day to be working? But I think he ended up getting a listing or something that day, if I recall. Anyway, I ended up putting an offer together on a duplex for some clients that were in the process of negotiating, but I'm confident we're going to get that. That was the 24th, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be kind of enjoying the festivities and all that, but I spent probably as much time working that day as I do normally any other day. So I just felt grateful for that opportunity. And then yesterday I took a listing, and that's all through door knocking. I've been doing lots of door knocking, and I actually really enjoy the door knocking over the calls. I'll do both, but door knocking, even in the 100-degree heat lately we've had, it's been pretty brutal, but it's been very lucrative. And so listing came out yesterday.
Awesome.
It's been good. Yeah.
Great
Work
job.
is continuing to pay off, and all the stuff you guys talk about, it definitely makes sense, and it does work. If you stick with it, it's just that consistency of sticking with it.
I was just going to say, one of the things that I've noticed with you, Steve, is your consistency and taking action and moving forward. And
When I first started the first week, Justin Udi came in, Udi, I don't know. Udi came in and was talking. He and Aaron know each other really well, Richardson. And Aaron just said, Justin, what can you tell Steve as a new agent to do? And he's like, well, I'm not really prepared, Aaron, for this. But he's like, he all of a sudden his face just went serious, and he went, just be consistent. That was his advice. I mean, there was no other more detailed things, but he said, whatever it is you're going to do, just be consistent at it. And I've always remembered that. Again, these guys that seem to be successful and know what they're doing, I'm going to listen to them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to do it myself. Even though there's times I'm thinking, that just doesn't seem right, then I slap myself upside the head and go, I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe it'll work, maybe not, but why should I try and reinventing it if somebody is telling me what to do that's successful at it? So.
Right. And you look at any one of them, like you said, and what you see in them is they all have that consistency in their business, right? And that's why they have that duplicatable process. I like them. Okay. Any other gratitudes or victories?
The Parade of Homes opens up on Friday.
Okay.
I'm involved in that.
Awesome. So which one can we come see you at?
Well, I had to help my son clean his house up until 1 in the morning
Oh, goodness.
on the 24th. So we all missed all of that, and so I had to gather as many of my kids and other people. He paid a cleaning crew, and they pooped out. So
Oh, no.
And this is the 12,000 square foot home up in Holiday, and it's a huge home. So it had to take a lot of time to get it clean. So that's why we were up there for so many hours.
And a whole crew to do it.
Yeah, so and it's going to be awesome. I know there's Realtors Day, and I'm thinking that is this week too.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's Thursday. I thought I saw something about it. Anyways, yeah. Okay, awesome. So we need to go check out your home.
Yeah, do.
Okay, great. So who of you guys are going to Superstar Retreat? Who's all registered? Good. We got a good majority going then. Okay, it's great. And then who of you are signed up for Tony Robbins? Steve. I like it. Did you really? Eric? That's great. Okay, good. Well, one of the things that I would just tell you guys is I always will say, and I shouldn't be saying this because I'm on camera right now, and I work for him, but one of the things I always will say is you guys can go to Superstar Retreat and you'll have a lot of success. He's going to give you a process, he'll give you a system, right? He'll definitely teach you how to sell real estate. But the thing that I would tell you is over the years of working with George and John is without working on yourself, you can succeed to a certain level, but you can't succeed at the level you're capable of doing it. So I will tell you the reason why I believe that George and John have associated both Tony Robbins and Mike Ferry together is because, like I just said, you take you and build you, and you take the system and the process and you put it together, and you can go to a much higher level if you're working on both, right?
That's why we always will say that the philosophy of the company is a personal development company that just happens to be in business with real estate agents. So I would encourage you to know that not just Mike, but Tony is a huge impact on our business, and that he will have an impact on your life. And obviously with the result of that, you will have a lot much more success in your business because of it. So, who's reading the book? Yay! I love it. I have more participation. Any thoughts to it? April, Miss April.
Are we on chapter 8? That's my
7 and 8.
7 and 8?
Yep.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay.
It's actually my 3rd time reading it, and I forget. Like, it's amazing how much it's worth rereading.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that, because I obviously have been to the event itself. So, Steve, just so you know, the book is about UPW. But it's one of those things that I think you read it and reread it, but it's good to read. I mean, this is actually the first time that I actually will say to you, I picked up the book and I'm actually reading the actual book. And even the Audible compared to the book there's a lot in the book that you miss out on in the Audible. So I would highly recommend that you guys pick up the book and read it, because it's a great read. So,
Is that Awaken the Giant Within?
So it's Awaken the Giant Within.
Oh, that's
Which
an old
the
one.
event is called Unleash the Power Within, right? So
He's had that for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, this one is actually
I read that
the
like 20
original
years
version
ago, I
of it.
think. Yeah.
This one's the original version of it. I know he did just come out with a revised version of
In
it.
the
but-
beginning, he talks about his wife,
91.
Becky.
Yeah, right.
Say, yeah, I
I'm
read
on,
that.
oh, yes, not Becky. Okay, so chapter 7 talks about how do we get what we really want out of life. And he says here that, at the beginning of the chapter, he's talking about, well, I love the quote he says. He says, all emotions are pure, which gather you and lift you up. The emotion is impure, which seizes only one side of your being, and so distorts you. So in this chapter, he's talking about, how do we get what we really want out of life, and how we actually will relate the emotions, right? Typically why we want something in life is because of the emotion that we're relating to it, what we're going to get from it, right? Are we going to get love? Is it a relationship? Are we going to get love? Is it, business? Is it the success and the recognition that you're going to get? He says that you relate that emotion to it. So one of the things he said here is what it all comes down to is the fact that you want these things or the results because you see them as a means to achieving certain feelings, emotions, or states that you desire. Then he goes on to say, after he goes through some examples, and he says, but first we must learn how to take control of them consciously instead of living them in reaction. Most of our emotional responses are learned responses to the environment that we've grown up in. We've deliberately modeled some of them and stumbled across others. Okay, any thoughts to that? Okay, one of the things that I would say is I think he's challenging you in regards to what it is that you want in life. Is it truly what you want? And is that emotion that you're seeking from it a good emotion to be seeking, right? One of the things as he goes through this chapter is the way that we ask ourselves is we ask better what? Questions, right? To find out if that's truly what we want, or is that the environment that we grew up in and that we're wanting that because of our environment, right? And our society or whatever it is that others are, I guess you could say, he'll tell you, limiting you to believe, right? What are your limiting beliefs? What are the challenges that you face? Who said that they were reading the book? Okay.
What page was that on?
So that was on page
Chapter 7.
153. So we're in chapter 7.
Lance, I got a comment.
Yeah, please.
It's fascinating to me is over the years of coaching people, how what I've discovered, and this book's right in alignment with it, that everything is related to pain or pleasure. And what I found fascinating over the years is how many people truly do fall in alignment with pain and how much they subconsciously go after it, yet they don't want it, but that's what they're focusing on. And some people like to live in the pity party, and I think that's really what it is when you have a choice. Everything we do is pain or pleasure, and this book goes into that very detailed in how we are showing up in lives, and we have to remember, how are we making people feel about the things we say and do, and how do we show up? Because everybody will fall into alignment one way or another to pain or pleasure. And you can really guide the results you're looking for
Yeah, absolutely.
from that.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. In fact, that actually goes along with what he says here. Is he says, the state that what you are in at any given moment determines your perceptions of your reality, and thus your decisions and behaviors. In other words, your behavior is not the result of your ability, but the state that you are in at this moment. To change your ability, change your state. To open your multitude of resources that lie within you, put yourself in a state of resourcefulness and active acceptancy, and watch miracles happen.
Right in alignment with that, how many of us got up, stubbed our toe, got in a bad mood, and the rest of the day was out of control? But in the moment, you can change that from stubbing a toe to singing a song. A little difficult, but I've done it. But it is about changing your state in a moment, because we will respond based on what's going on in our lives. And we can change it.
Yeah.
I've just started doing something as far as you were saying, accepting, something in there about accepting the...
You put yourself in a state of resourcefulness and active acceptancy.
Active acceptancy, yeah. I mean, something similar to that is I've had a problem with just being angry when I'm driving.
Yeah.
It just, because I try to maintain a certain speed, and I'm not in any hurry and stuff, and one of the things that always be just aggressive drivers and things like that. And there was a woman this morning, she was just going really fast. I mean, she's like 90 miles an hour on 215 on the right-hand lane, and car merged in, hit her brakes and stuff, and the roads are slick, and I'm like right there, I'm like, oh, and I wanted to get angry, but well, the thing is, it's just acknowledging it, just going, okay, there's my anger, there it is, I accept it. Instead of fighting it all the time, I just accept it, and I just move on. And I tell you, that really does give you a sense of power when you just acknowledge that, oh, I am afraid, or I am scared, like I'm going up to this door, knocking on this door. Yeah, I am afraid of rejection. I am afraid. You know what? I'm just going to go do it anyway. Right. And I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do it again until I get to where I'm comfortable with it and I'm fine with it, and you just kind of keep moving forward.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that, Parrish, because for some reason I was on the ride down the elevator yesterday, and I was like, I remember the days where I used to be scared walking in and talking to a recruit. And I don't know why I thought that, it just came to my head. I was like, but now to me it's just, and it's actually one of the questions that I think that I learned from Tony is, how am I going to influence the life of this individual? That's the question I propose to myself every time I walk into that room, right? Is how am I going to influence the life of this individual? And it's so different from the story we tell ourselves, right? It's actually funny, Parrish, that you bring up that example specifically, because he talks about that, and he says, oftentimes we'll get mad at the person who cuts us off on the road, or, and maybe it was I was listening to it as well this morning, but he'll say, it's the person that cut us off on the road, or maybe it's, and actually I said this to my little sister the other day, is on the 24th, her husband had to work and obviously was running late, and we were to be to a rodeo, right? And she was mad and frustrated with him and all these things, and I said, wait a second, are you frustrated with him, or are you worried about him because he's not home safe? And I said, so what story are you telling yourself?
Wow, it's powerful.
Right? And I said, is it the power of, oh, I'm frustrated because he's not here on time and we have to be somewhere? Or is he okay? Is he going to make it here? Are we going to be able to get to where we need to get to? I mean, it's a totally different story, and he talks about that, right? It's just the ability to change your state. So he said there are two primary ways that we can change the emotional state: by changing the way we use our physical body, and by changing our focus. Right? So we can change our physiology, and actually when I asked you earlier, Parrish, I don't know if you noticed, but you actually used your body to get excited when you were talking. Right?
We need to do the Elevate Class 4 script practice.
Yeah.
I wonder how much different that would be.
Well, and it just, no, it's true though, but he goes on to say, in this chapter in regards to changing your physiology, he says, but the real key in life is to be able to make yourself feel good when you don't feel good, or when you don't even want to feel good. Know that you can do this instantaneously by using your body as a tool to change your state. Right? There are so many times now, because I've been to the event, he'll say, how fast can you change your state? This fast, right? And so now, whenever I'm in that mood of getting mad or whatever, I'll go change my state. And it's just a click of the finger, right? That you could change that thought process. Steve?
Along these lines of driving, because I don't think there's probably anybody in here that doesn't feel that way at one point or another.
Right.
Drivers.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
But what I've been doing for a while now is, because I used to get angry about it, and then I started realizing how I just start to get into that same mode that person is in. And now I'm at their level, being aggressive, and I'm thinking, how's everybody else now looking at me?
Right.
Probably feeling the same way I feel about that person that is driving that way. So I was like, do I want others to look at me in that way? Because I can become just like that and associate with how they're acting, or it's hard to just ignore it, but that's what you need to do. And the more you do that, the easier it becomes to just do and say, I'm not going to be like that person. And that's how I want to approach this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just think of it in the pain and pleasure mode. If I'm driving and I'm going to fall into the aggressive manner, I see somebody else to get competitive or whatever, I just think the pleasure of this is not worth the pain it would cost if I hurt someone.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure I could, like if you hurt a child or something, I'm not sure I could live with myself, but
Yeah.
even if the truth didn't come out of how it happened.
I like that point of view.
So that's just like you said, just change your state really quick. Just think, what if I hurt someone? What if someone died?
Right. Well, and he often says in the book too, right, is that the emotion of us moving toward or away from pain is often subsidized or what's the word that he uses? Reinforced with that source of pleasure, right? So the only way that we can truly change our behavior is by reinforcing it with the pleasure that we could get from something. April, are you gonna?
Oh, I wasn't reading that.
Oh, sorry.
But I was thinking something about the changing your state. Like it talks about laughing
Yeah.
and just, the importance of laughing a lot during the day. And
One of my gratitudes, that's awesome.
And I was also thinking with change of state, it's interesting because, my sister used to make fun of me when I was a teenager because I'd be yelling at her and then the phone would ring and I'd go, hello. She would make fun of me all the time. But the truth is we can change our state really fast and really easy if someone calls you or comes to your door or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing in regards to this, right, is he talks about our perception and what we give to it, our story that we're giving to it, our emotion that we're giving to it. I had the opportunity to talk to one of my friends, and I said, I think that's a pretty unpowerful story that you're giving to this, or you're giving too much meaning to it, more or less, is what I was telling her, right? And she just goes, huh, interesting, right? And I think one of the things that I love that I've learned from Tony is we have the power to create our destiny. We have the power of choice to change our reaction in the way that we respond to things, right? One of my greatest things that I've learned from him is I allow everything to happen to me. My emotion, I allow the way that I react, right? It's not the other end of, and I think that's the biggest thing of what he's talking to in this chapter is we are the one who's responsible for it. Annette.
Yeah, there's a book called The Law of the Dump Truck, and basically what it means is, what it talks about is that all of us walk around with, with trash and with our stories, and, we carry that, and we express it outwardly, and at some point, we have to dump it on someone, and sometimes it's on you. Sometimes it happens on the streets, on the, driving around. And you have to have the power of focus, like you said, to understand that when somebody cuts you off, or well, maybe they're having a real bad day, maybe they're on their way to a hospital, but and you change the focus on what you're thinking about their action, because you really don't know why they cut you off. Maybe they're truly a jerk. But you have the choice to say, okay, you know, that's not going to affect me. I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to lower myself to that level and become that person.
I agree. Absolutely. Greg?
Well, I think someone's being a jerk when they're dumping. The dump truck is unloading, and it happens to be maybe on me as they cut me off on the freeway.
Right.
I think that's why they're being a jerk, and that's okay. There's stuff going on in their life, and I heard someone say recently, if you don't get along with your neighbor, make them a cake and give toys to their kids, and it'll all go away. And if you just be okay with things, on the phone, talking with people, or on the freeway, driving.
Well, I think it goes back
It works
to
out.
what you're saying too, goes back to what Parrish was saying, actively accepting what is,
Yeah.
right? Just letting what is be. Mackenzie?
I have a funny story about, so I've been marketing to one of these agents, and she's having a little bit of a rough time. And we were on the phone, and I was just talking, kind of seeing how she does her prospecting, just seeing what her business is like. And she goes, well, you know, I don't like to cold call. I don't like to door knock. She really doesn't like to do normal prospecting at all. She really just wants it to fall into her lap. And so we had this really awkward conversation where I was like, well, have you tried this or this or this? And she's like, no, I don't like to do that. And so it got more and more awkward, and I was just like, you know, you're not really going to succeed if you're not taking control of your own business and, you know, acting for yourself and changing your focus. And so it was an awkward conversation, and it ended. And yesterday, I was actually at the Parade of Homes, and it was Realtor Day, and so I actually ran into her. And so I ran into her, and it was so interesting how she had totally changed. And she said, you know what, actually after our conversation, I was driving and I felt like I really needed to go door knocking.
Wow.
And so she felt like she needed to go down this street and ended up getting a lead from there. So it was really cool watching her take control of her own business and really change her focus.
Wow.
Change her focus. I love that. So that is the second thing that he says in our ability to, you know, to change our state, we have to change our focus, right? And one of the things that he says here that I love is he said, focus is not true reality because it's one view. It's only one perception of the way things really are. And I've never heard him say it like, or at least I haven't listened to it, I guess, maybe when he said it that way. But I thought it was, you know, our perception is our reality, right? How one focuses or what they focus on is their reality. And so how can we change that? I thought, you know, how is it that we can help people focus on the right things in regards to our sales process? You know, are they focusing on the true story, or are you helping them understand that? Are you helping them change their thought process in regards to what they're focusing on? Or are you, right, just allowing them to perceive whatever it may be? So, any other thoughts? Okay.
One, Lindsay, is and just based on that, and it's something I always say, and that's assumption determines behavior, and behavior determines assumption. And it's a vicious loop, or it can be a kind loop, depending on where you decide to exist. And it's really, you've got to realize that 55 to 60% of all people are having the worst day of their life. How are you going to show up for them? I mean, that question really needs to be asked. So more times than not, you're going to have somebody who just, you just got on their last nerve, and they lose it. So ask yourself how you're showing up. I have to, as an expressive driver, that's bad. I have to really be checking myself constantly, because I just have a real hard time dealing with stupid stuff, like somebody cutting me off, and asking myself, what if they're racing to their child's bedside who's dying? And I had to actually start asking myself those questions around road rage, just to change my focus.
And it changes really quickly.
It does immediately, because then you go into empathy.
Yeah.
Immediately. Because what really, truly, what if they are, they're not doing it to make you mad. They're doing it because something's in their head that has nothing to do with you. Absolutely zero.
Right, good point. So one of the things that he says here is, he goes on to say, focus on where you want to go, not what you fear. I think oftentimes, like Parrish was saying, you know, before we go door knocking or before we get on the phone, we're focusing on the fear of it versus what we want out of it, right? And so I think, you know, one of the things that I've always thought about is, my girlfriends actually make fun of me now because it's a saying that I say to them all the time, but, you know, I always say time is money, just pay it and you'll figure out how to pay for it later, you know, like, but they always make fun of me, and I think one of the things that I've learned from Tony is quit focusing on the how. How is it going to happen? What do I need to do? And just focus on what it is that you want and move forward in that direction. The rest will fall into the place, right? But so often, us as a human, we want to naturally think, well, how's that going to happen? What do I need to do? Da, 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 da. And he just said, just ask yourself more empowering questions. Go forward.
So I just, when I get started, because the first couple are always hard. I mean, it's hard to get started, but I just think about the positive things that have happened as a result of doing it. Getting a listing or whatever positive things has happened, that helps me to get started. But then along the way, you know, it's like, no, don't come back here, la-da-da. And then I just think, okay, it's a numbers game. And I've just got all these behind me. This next one might be that one. And eventually it is. It's truly a numbers game. You guys have convinced me of that. And if it's not happening, it's like, okay, well, how many did you hit? Yeah, I only hit 15. Well, no, you got to hit 50 or 100.
Yeah.
You just have to hit numbers, and if it's not happening, then you just keep going. Just like
that's why I like flyers, because if you print out 75 flyers, by gum, they're all going to be gone that day. That's my goal. Whatever I print out, they're going to be gone that day. That's how it's a good way. Or business cards. It's business cards. I'll take 50 business cards. Or George was saying that, you know, if he's doing an expired or for sale by owner, he'll hit 10 on one side, 10 on the other. He'll hit 21 doors around that expired. It's like, well, how do I know it's I take exactly 22 cards or 21 cards with me, and that way I know I've covered those, and I move on to the next one. And it's a numbers game. That's a good way to. That's a good way I track my numbers. It's just by why I don't want my printers are gone. At least I hit my numbers for that day.
Well, and with those numbers, right, the story that it can actually create for you. So looking at your numbers, Steve, if you're tracking them, you can determine where in my skill set do I need to improve, right?
Yeah.
If I had a coaching client who she's at 60 contacts to one set. Well, me as a coach, I know we got to work on her scripting, right? So.
I have a quick question, just because he brought up flyers. I was watching a video on YouTube, and an agent said something about how it's illegal to put stuff into people's mailboxes.
Yes.
And so that's something that we should not be doing.
Yep.
Not in the
What do you do
mailbox.
with your flyers then if
On the
someone's
door.
On the door.
On the door. You just take
Never in the mailbox.
Yeah, I had a mail person tell me,
He just did
that's
yesterday.
a federal offense. I go,
That's a
"Oh."
federal offense.
Okay, so I want to leave you guys with this last statement that I thought was pretty powerful in this chapter, but then, and because it relates to the next chapter that we haven't been able to get through, but I would encourage you to read it. Because the next question is about the questions we ask ourselves, right? And how they can either discourage us or how they can empower us. And are we asking the right questions, right? And he says, you know, instead of asking why me, ask why not me? Or how, you know, what is it that how come I had to go through this? Ask what lesson am I learning because of this, right? And so just the questions that you can change and be able to empower yourself with them instead of discouraging yourself or causing those limiting beliefs because you're asking the wrong questions. So he just, real quickly, he says, the most powerful way to control our focus is through the use of questions. For whatever you ask, your brain provides an answer. Whatever you look for, you will find. If you ask, why is this person taking advantage of me? You're going to focus on how you're being taken advantage of, whether it's not true or not. If you ask, how can I turn this around? You get a more empowering answer. And he said, questions provide the key to unlocking our limited potential. So I would encourage you guys, one of the greatest things that I've learned from Tony is to ask myself, why am I doing this, right? Or what is it that I'm, why do I get from this behavior? What is it that I'm seeking? You know, and if you get involved in it and you go to the events and things like that, you'll learn he talks about the 6 human needs. And oftentimes the reason why we're doing what we're doing is because 3 out of those 6 human needs are being fulfilled, right? And how you can change that is by finding the other needs and where you can replace that. And so I just encourage you guys today, as you go about today, when you're going to get on the phone and you're having that fear, or when you're going about your daily, ask yourself questions. Encourage yourself to say, is this really empowering my business, or am I discouraging it and limiting it because I'm not asking myself enough questions, right? And he also says, at some point too, though, you do have to stop asking yourself questions and take action, right? And so just, I would tell you, ask yourself questions, make sure you're empowering your business, not discouraging yourself, right? Make sure the questions that you're asking are gonna obviously help you get further to where it is that you're wanting, so. Okay, let's close out. All the information. Hey, I succeed because I answer my goals. I'm an optimist. I like talking to people. I know it is important to me. I remember people's names. I have a daily plan that I follow. I am passionate about real estate. I know consistency my greatest tool. I like asking questions and listening. My thoughts and my emotions match the result. I focus on my dreams daily. My presentation is on purpose. I improve my skills daily. I am happy. I love the prospect because it feeds my business. I see my future is awesome. I love my life. I am grateful in it. I control my thinking. I believe in me. I feel outstanding. I use my beliefs and optimism daily. I get things done. I provide customer service. I drink water daily. I connect with people. People love me. I love others. I exist when it counts on my daily schedule. I prosper daily. I set appointments daily. I am a master persuader. I achieve my goals. I'm a real estate officer. I am passionate about my life. I live every day with purpose. I am confident in myself skills. I know my destiny. I am healthy and strong. I am powerful. I'm unstoppable. I keep positive. It's hard because this book has a lot to take in.
My price yesterday, I got
Tony, you're always so willing.